Hi there, I'm Chantal from Fresh Israel, and today I'm going to show you how to make your first gluten-free sourdough starter. Let's assume you've never made a starter before. I will go over how I do it, and I know and I realize there's many other ways to prepare a gluten-free sourdough starter. This is how I do it, and I would like to show you how I prepare mine. So let's do it. If you've never made a starter before, why would people want to make a gluten-free sourdough starter as opposed to a wheat-based starter? Well, for people that have celiac disease or other autoimmune diseases that cannot eat gluten, even though sourdough bread that is made with wheat is easier to digest, it's just not safe for them to consume that type of sourdough bread. But luckily, you can take gluten-free sourdough grain or flour to prepare your own starter. All the details of the recipe and tips and tricks will be listed below. And a while back, I prepared a post that includes all that information as well. And I do have another gluten-free sourdough starter video, and it really gives you a good overall view of how to prepare it. My process takes up to 7 days, and it's pretty much hands-off, but you do have to pay a little bit of attention to it every day. So I will show you how simple it is to prepare. And in part 2 of my sourdough starter, I will have a video on how to maintain and care for your starter once it's bubbly and active and you bake with it. Brown rice flour, especially organic flour, has been shown to work really well. If you have brown rice at home, you could mill it yourself, and that sometimes works even better. You can do half a cup of flour with half a cup of water. For today's example, I'll just use 1/4 cup because it's a little bit less and easier to show you. You might come across people talking about hydration, like 50% hydration, 75% hydration. For me, all those technical things are not as important. They can be important, but I try not to think about it too much at first when you're trying to learn. I've just put 1/4 cup of brown rice flour, and then I'm gonna add 1/4 cup of water. When using water, when you're doing a gluten-free sourdough starter, I try to use either spring water or filtered water. Try not to use chlorinated tap water because that can affect the bacteria that you're trying to cultivate, because a sourdough starter is basically wild yeast. So to this clean jar, I've put the flour, the water, and I will stir it just to make sure that all the flour and the water are mixed well. Then I always cover my starter with a coffee filter, but you can use a clean cloth if that's easier for you, just as long as no fruit flies or unwanted things. You don't want unwanted things to go into your starter. You feed your starter to begin with twice per day. You can do it once in the morning, once in the afternoon. I don't want to overcomplicate things, so it's probably just as easy for you to watch and read below the feeding schedule, because there comes a day, I can't remember, it's day 4 or 5, where you might have to feed it 3 times just to get it going a little bit faster. Yes, you can use other types of flour. You could use buckwheat, you could use millet, you could use sorghum, you could probably even try oat, and you can try grain-free flours. This bread here is actually made with a grain-free sourdough starter, and it's probably one of my favorite breads lately. Sometimes eliminating gluten is not enough. Sometimes you have to eliminate additional gluten-free grains just to help your body heal it a little bit. You have to understand that sourdough bread is better for your gut, but sometimes, you know, everything in moderation. So you have to listen to your body and do what is best for you. A couple of tips or tricks I could show you as well. If you find that you've mixed your starter, or you just want to kickstart it and make it culture a little bit faster, I've occasionally used organic grapes. You can wipe them with a cloth. Try not to wash them with chlorinated water. You can cut them in half. Sometimes I put the grapes directly into my starter. Sometimes I'll just squeeze a little bit of juice in my starter. And in my recipe notes, you'll even see that I have options for a little bit of maple syrup. Some people don't like those ideas, but some people use them, as it can work better and faster. I've also in the past used organic apple. You can cut a piece of it and just put that piece of apple into your starter. Some people grate the apple. But in addition to organic apples or organic grapes, you might even come across some recipes that include yeast water, kefir, kombucha yeast. I might be forgetting some, but those are just some examples. Or add those extra ingredients to their starter. Sometimes they'll add them later on when they're actually preparing the ingredients for the bread. I just wanted to show you how simple it is as far as mixing simple flour and water and letting this sit on your counter. Warm area is preferable, and then following the suggested feeding schedule. And then within 7 days, you should probably have a bubbly, active starter. So I hope this was helpful, not more confusing. If you have questions, just write them in the comments below, and subscribe, like, and share. If this was helpful or if this was confusing to you, just let me know. I just want to give you simple tips and tricks to make it easier for you to try to consider preparing your own gluten-free sourdough starter. Thanks for watching. I'll see you in the next video. And that's pretty much it.